Let me ask you about the Brexit policy, Andrew Gwynne, because the policy is if you're elected and Jeremy Corbyn is a number 10, he's going to go to Brussels and he's going to negotiate a new Brexit deal. Does that deal have to get through the House of Commons?
Well, look, what we've said is within 3 months of a Labour government taking office, we will have negotiated a Brexit deal based on Labour's...
But I'm sorry to interrupt you, but it's only a deal if it goes through the House of Commons as well. Both sides have to agree.
But also, yes, and we will put that to the people. That's the important thing. So, you know, we're looking for a deal that's based on workers' rights being protected, environmental protections, consumer rights and close alignment to the single market and customs union. Let's put that to the people and let the people have that final sign-off on a Labour Brexit deal alongside Remain as an option.
I'll come on to all of that detail in a moment, but first of all, it has to go through the House of Commons, it has to be voted through in the House of Commons, and this by a Labour Party, more than 50 of whose MPs have declared they don't want to leave the EU at all. You've got lots and lots of fellow members of the shadow cabinet who have said explicitly that they are pro-Remain. So how are you going to get your getting out of the EU Brexit deal through the House of Commons and through a party which is doesn't want to leave in the first place?
Because there has to be compromise. The problem that we have had for the past 3 years is that the government have not been able to compromise. We've had David Cameron doing a runner when the referendum went wrong for him. We've had Theresa May resign, and then we've had Boris Johnson trying to shut down democracy altogether. What we're saying is the best and clearest way out of the mess that we are in is to secure that deal based on Labour's principles, but then to put it to the country. Not politicians deciding, let the people decide, Andrew.
But you're telling me before that happens that people like Emily Thornberry and Keir Starmer are going to compromise and vote for a Labour form of Brexit, which seems to be unlikely, but I take your point. Let me ask you about the detail.
To compromise in that we want to put this choice back to the people, and it will be the people, not politicians, that decide. We're the only party that's offering that, Andrew. You know, you can have a deregulated Brexit, a hard Brexit under Boris Johnson, or you can have the Liberal Democrats who want to forget that democracy's even happened in 2016. The only route out of this is to go back to the people.
Let's talk about the Labour Brexit deal and about free movement of people. That's one of the really, really big issues. I'd like you to listen for a moment to Jeremy Corbyn in a non-undoctored video talking this week, and he was asked about Labour's policy on free movement. Here's what he said.
So yes, there has to be that movement of people, and yes, our young people do need access to things like the Erasmus scheme so they can study in universities in other parts of Europe and indeed other parts of the world. I want our young people to be brought up in a world where they can travel, they can experience other societies, they can make their contribution there, and you know what? That enriches their lives and enriches the lives of all of us. And so thank you for that question, and I tell you this, I want to make sure that all those European Union nationals do remain here, can come here, will stay here.
All those European nationals can come here, do stay here. How does that differ from free movement?
Well, of course, these would be bespoke reciprocal arrangements that will allow, for example, British students to access the European education system. Because why should British youngsters lose out on things like the Erasmus scheme? That was never on the ballot paper in 2016, and so many young people feel really, upset that their opportunities that my generation had have been denied to them. So let's get this right in bespoke.
Well, let's get this right by listening closely, because what you said about young people is absolutely right, I'm sure, but he didn't say young people, he said all European citizens should be able to come here and work here, and after they've worked here and contributed, stay here as well, which is what a lot of your colleagues think as well. I just ask you again, that is it not free movement?
Well, these would be bilateral agreements, and what we recognise is that there are
bilateral agreements for free movement.
But there are people who live and work in the European Union who are British citizens, and there are European Union citizens who live and work in the United Kingdom. And what we want to negotiate is an arrangement where that can continue. We don't want our British citizens who are living and working in Europe to have to up sticks and come home. And likewise, those Europeans that have made their life here in the United Kingdom are welcome to be part of our society. That's the Labour way, Andrew.
Well, I've got the EU's definition of free movement here, and it seems to me that it is absolutely consonant with what you've just said. The Labour conference motion on this subject said that the party in government should maintain and extend free movement rights. What does extend free movement rights mean?
Well, let's see what's in the manifesto after clause 5, but I've been very clear. We are looking at reciprocal agreements with the EU 27 that allows British citizens to enjoy some of the freedoms that they will lose as a result of Brexit, things like Erasmus, things like being able to continue working and living in other EU states. And the quid pro quo is that those Europeans who are here in the UK studying, living, working will be able to as well.
All right. Will this manifesto say what the 2017 Labour manifesto said, which was, in terms, and I quote, freedom of movement will end?
Well, I'll be able to answer that more clearly this time next week. Andrew, I've not seen a draft of the manifesto. We go through a democratic process. It's next Saturday where the whole Labour Party family come together. But you know what? Our next manifesto is going to be ambitious. It's going to be transformative. And we aim to do for the 21st century what that great transforming Attlee Labour government did for Britain in the 20th century.
Right. But that manifesto, you can't say that freedom of movement will end. And you concede, I think, that what your new policy is very, very like freedom of movement. The reason I'm asking about this is partly that you yourself are in a Leave constituency, and you said not that long ago, a lot of my constituents voted for Leave because they wanted to end what they saw as people coming from other parts of the EU, taking their jobs, lowering their wages and living standards, and I understood those concerns. You don't understand them anymore, do you?
I absolutely do understand those concerns, and you know the way that you deal with those concerns is that you lift up the playing field so that my constituents benefit from well-paid jobs, a real living wage of £10 an hour, so that we have high-tech, high-skill investment through the green industrial revolution. And that's why our manifesto is going to be truly transformational for constituencies like mine that have been left behind after 10 years of Tory cuts.
I suppose my point about Brexit is that if you're in favour of free movement of people or something very like it, you're in favour of the customs union or something very like it, and the single market. We're going to be paying in inevitably if we do this deal. What is the point of it all? If it's like being inside the EU but we don't have a democratic vote, what is the point?
Well, the point is we had a vote in 2016 with a non-specific notion of leaving the European Union, and we can't undo that vote of 2016 without having a proposition to go to the people and to say, this is the deal we've negotiated. Do you want this form of Brexit? If you do, a Labour government will legislate for it.
OK, Andrew Gwynne, thanks very much.
That's the important difference, Andrew. Thank you.
Gwynne, thanks very much indeed.